Salutations, my fiendish phone fanatics. I'm the Silver Screen Slasher, and welcome back to the RoboCop vs. Terminator special. Today I'm joined by my good buddy, the Cinemastein. Say hello.
Hello guys, and just to let you know, I'll give you guys a bit of a heads up if you're wondering where's Spike Green. He doesn't unfortunately have Terminator 3 or even Salvation to be exact, so you won't see him in our Salvation review. He doesn't have them either on a streaming service or DVD or Blu-ray, so what I'm trying to say is for this video and the next video, it'll just be us.
Yeah, in other words, the next two Terminator reviews are going to be done by just the two of us. Speaking of which, today we're looking at Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, released in 2003, over 10 years after the second Terminator film came out. And to be honest, this one's kind of a hit and not a dead center bullseye. It's more hit the target on the left.
To me, this is kind of the RoboCop 2, I guess, in a way. To me, it's not a very good sequel, but it's not very bad either. It's just, if you guys haven't seen this, warning, of course, this will contain spoilers for those people who haven't seen it, but when you do see it, warning, it is not, of course, like the other two, if you do get blown away by the other two. The third one is just, okay, well, I mean, it's not horrible, but it's just one of those sequels that were just okay.
Yeah. Also, explicit warning, there may be some use of coarse language throughout this review, and I just wanted to give you a heads up in case we use any bad words for any little ones out there. So, this is just spoiler warning for both the movie and the language. So, let's dig into let's take a look at Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines and see how this movie falls.
Well, Terminator 3, of course, like Silver said, takes place 10 years after the events of T2. Well, let's start with John Connor. Film pretty much opens, of course, with John Connor doing a usual, I guess, narration. And, well, John Connor, let's just say, unfortunately, his life as an adult didn't turn out so well for him because, no offense, but he's pretty much living now in his adulthood as a street bum.
He's a vagabond.
No home, no not really any family left, nothing, which is kind of sad. And still to this day, he keeps having nightmares and dreams, and even has this really bad feeling that somehow, well, Judgment Day might still happen.
Yeah. Before we go any further, I want to talk about John Connor's actor in this film, Nick Stahl. Oh, I mean, to be honest, let's not to compare him to Eddie Furlong from T2, but he does an okay job playing a more paranoid and freaked out version of John Connor. All right. I mean, come on. He was no longer the naive innocent kid that was brought into the world of the Terminators. He's gotten much more aware of the situation that it happened all those years ago, and now he's just trying to live his own life, basically.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's what I kind of, I guess, don't mind about him in this film. The next character, or at least part of the story that I want to explain, is, of course, now Kate Brewster, who is actually Connor's future. Though I don't know the actress who plays her, so just to curiosity, do you know who plays her, Silver?
I'm just trying to jog my memory of who it was that played her. Give me a sec. You'll come back to me.
I think her name is Claire something.
Yeah, Claire Daniels. That was it.
Yep, she plays Kate Brewster.
Yeah. Or Catherine Brewster. Short for Catherine Brewster.
Yep. Anyway, pretty much her purpose so far in the story is, well, she's pretty much in the same position as Sarah Connor was, at least in the original movie. She is taken hostage by the T-800 and John Connor. And, of course, at first she thinks she's being kidnapped. Even really, the Terminator and John Connor are actually doing it to save her.
And now it's time to bring on the major protagonist for this film. And unfortunately, this one's a letdown. Enter the TX, played by Kristanna Loken, who, this Terminator is basically an anti-Terminator, or Terminator, a Terminator killer, basically. It's basically,
It's literally how even John Connor says it.
yeah, basically it's a, it's basically a Terminator's endoskeleton, but with a liquid metal covering as well. Honestly, that idea sounds cool, but the way they show it is just stupid. And this idea wouldn't be fully realized into perfection until Terminator Dark Fate.
Yeah, TX to me, I do love though the idea that they decided to make this one a female for once, but good God, oh man, she another thing that I don't like about her, and I wish they kind of did more of her, and it's of course I've nothing against Chris. I wish they gave her a more memorable lines or something like that. But here's also the problem with her. At times when I was looking at her, and if I was a human, I would already know there's something suspicious about her, because even just the way she talks at times, like she says to me even some of the most corniest and stupidest lines ever.
Yeah,
Like
basically,
probably
yeah,
the most stupidest one so far is when she says this to a cop: "I like your gun." Oh, is that supposed to be sexy or something? Like,
no,
really? What
no,
type of woman says to a cop, "I like your gun"?
the kind of woman who would be a robot in disguise trying to kill him. Yeah, honestly though, I do have a bit of a similar complaint about Logan's performance in this film. Here's my only complaint about it is why couldn't they have made this one more human and sort of like an upgrade to the T-1000.
And
And
do you know
my
what I actually liked about Robert Patrick's character in a way, though? His version? At times, he actually did talk like a real human. You actually, when I saw him, for example, and even Doug Walker said this, and I agree with him. If you saw him out in the middle of the street, you would just think he was just some regular guy. You couldn't even see him from a mile away.
yeah, that's how good Robert Patrick was. But Logan,
And
honestly,
what I also liked about him is that he had a few cool, memorable lines, and even just moments in general.
yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, with Logan, it's like the director gave her zero direction whatsoever. And whenever,
Her pretty much her part of the story is, well, or at least her part of the plot is she has to eliminate all of John Connor's future lieutenants and kill them one by one before the events of the future even happen.
and and as you know, whenever there's a bad Terminator involved, there's always going to be a good one. Which brings us to Arnold Schwarzenegger returning again and playing the T-850. Think of him as a slightly upgraded model to the T-800. But
Yep.
the only one of the only differences is now he's powered by hydrogen and fuel cells. And unfortunately, when the fuel cells are damaged, they tend to explode. But keep that foreshadowing in mind for when we talk about the ending.
Yep. Speaking of, as well, of course, Arnold is back once again to play the classic T-800.
Actually,
In
yeah,
this
you
one, of
mentioned,
course, his mission's not just to protect John Connor. No, it's actually to protect John Connor and Kate Brewster this time.
yeah,
And I guess a part of his mission is also to go to the facility where her father works. And they want to get there in time before he can activate Skynet.
yeah. And actually, Stein, as I mentioned, and this is not a regular T-800. This is now the T-850, a slightly a more advanced version of the regular T-800. And honestly, I actually kind of like the scene where the T-850 gets his clothes from. He gets them at all places at a male stripper bar.
And I still like the reactions that some of the women had. Like, some of them were like, "Oh," and some of them were confused, and just some of them were even just loved it. And also, what I also loved about this part is, well, this I must say that Arnold has some of the best moments to me, in my opinion. I think he's actually one of the best characters in this because they actually gave him even more of a personality, and I'll tell you why. Because first off, he says probably another one of the most memorable lines in the entire series to this guy on stage.
Your
Talk to
clothes.
the hand.
Actually, that's where he gets that line from. It's when he's
Oh
asking the
yeah,
guy
I
for his
got that
clothes,
wrong.
and the stripper says, "Talk to the head." And then he grabs the hand, starts to crush it with his bionic one, and then talks to it like, "Now."
Well, still, he doesn't say that, and then not until gas station scene, but still, it's
Yeah.
a memorable line he says.
Uh,
And
of-
still, this one I actually felt like was kind of memorable to me. And do you know what I love about it as well? During, by the way, a cool action car chase sequence, right? Of course, Kate Brewster and John Connor are like, holy shit, pretty much, still have their holy shit, what just happened back there face.
yeah. You did.
And
Yeah.
and Arnold's just there driving, right, the T800, and he literally says this out of nowhere because their car's all smashed to shit, and he says this, we
We
need
need
a
a
new
new vehicle.
vehicle. And they just look at him like, really? That was just perfect. He
Yeah.
says it like nothing even happened.
And yeah, to be honest, to be fair, it's no put that cookie down, like from Kindergarten Cop. But
You
hey,
mean Jingle All the Way?
sorry, there are so many.
Yep, that's actually.
My bad. There are so many Schwarzenegger movies out there. It's easy to confuse some of them.
Yeah, I know, and they all have great memorable lines and things like
Yeah,
that. I
not
understand.
to mention that one moment when Schwarzenegger wore the star-shaped sunglasses.
Oh
That's
yes,
yeah,
but
that's
he crushes them, unfortunately.
yeah. Actually, that does show he has a sense of humor. He tries on the star-shaped sunglasses, doesn't like them, and crushes them under his foot. That's
That's
actually kind
true.
of funny without actually him saying anything.
So, of course, we can't explain literally every single aspect of the plot, so now we're just gonna, and since we pretty much even just went through the characters, let's get through the effects. I feel like now we can talk about it. There's not a lot in it, but some of it, the effects, I wouldn't say are horrible, but they're alright. They're still not awful.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is probably seeing, I think I'm right, a machine called T130 or something. Anyway, it's a machine with
T850.
two like mini guns on the side for arms and things like that.
Oh,
When I saw the
oh
thing,
yeah, the
I thought it was
T1s.
pretty cool.
Yeah, those are known as the T1s, and I like that they're actually practical.
Yeah, and I must say that I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, my my personal favorite effect has to actually come from the opening chase scene. Basically, when it involves the TX driving that big crane car thing.
Oh yes, I must say that is a really awesome fun
Yeah,
action
and the way that
sequence.
Arnold is just hanging onto the hook and her just plowing through that car or dealer. Uh, the the great thing about that effect is that they didn't have enough at the time. They didn't have enough money to finish shooting it. So Arnold himself paid paid out of his own cash just to get that effect finished.
Wow, and you know what's even more incredible though? Just the amount of shit and everything they demolished in this thing. Good God, that is some property damage.
Yeah, eh, obviously, some somewhere somewhere somehow in 2003, Michael Bay was getting orgasm watching that effect.
Oh boy. Now, there's not, as I said before, there's not really that much to the effects except for some of the explosions and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
now, next,
that's
I
about
think
the
we should get to the action. A little bit as well like the effects. The action is pretty fun and exciting at times, but no offense, and I think we can all agree it's nowhere near to the standards as T2.
or even the first Terminator. But to be honest, there are a
And I'm
few
not
good
gonna lie,
actions.
I think I counted most of the action sequences. There's pretty much really two if you think about it, or I guess kind of three now think about it.
That would
Still,
include the
there's
one
not
that,
really a lot.
which would probably include the one in the cemetery, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
one in the
basic.
cemetery, around the cemetery. One, of course, in that military base, and the other one,
The opening chase scene.
yeah,
Yeah. But to be fair, the cemetery one still has a pretty good image of Arnold holding a machine gun in one hand and in, lifting the coffin, which contains the rest of the franchise, over his other shoulder.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
one.
yeah. But if you're wondering why he was carrying that coffin, he was carrying the corpse of this franchise away with
Oh,
him.
and one quick little thing. Guess who also appears for the third time in a row in this franchise? In that during that cemetery scene,
The
Doctor
Doctor.
Silverman.
Oh, Dr. Silverman. And honestly, I think this was the last time and the actor who played him officially. I think this was the last time that the original actor for him who played him appeared. Last I checked, in Genesis, he was replaced by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. The actor was probably gone by then, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was probably dead. But at least Simmons was trying to pay respect to that question mark.
Yeah. Oh, and also, but yeah, there's not too much to it now, except as well for that cool helicopter crash scene and all sorts of stuff. But and that's pretty much it. Now I guess we should maybe get to the climax. We can maybe talk about the climax.
Of course. Yes. And eventually
Oh,
involves
I
getting.
almost forgot, but another one, probably my favorite lines, even it's kind of the same, but the one where Arnold says, "She'll be back."
My yeah, my line it will make more my favorite line will make more sense later. It's when it's when it's when Arnold's response to John saying in that they stopped Judgment Day. In response, Arnold said, "You didn't stop Judgment Day. You only delayed it. Judgment Day is inevitable." That will make more sense later. Keep that in mind. The
Oh, and
climax
I almost
basically
forgot,
involves.
but a little while ago, these Arnold even said how much time they had to at least try and stop Judgment Day. 3 hours, I believe, and 53 minutes or something.
Yeah. And I also forgot to mention that another one of the TX's abilities is being able to hack other machines. So after she um, kicks Arnold's head, it kicks the cords out of Arnold's head, so to speak, she
And they also had another
reprograms him
cool
to
action
try.
sequence.
Yeah, she basically tries to force Arnold to kill Catherine and John. But however, John does manage to snap him out of it when it makes him realize that if he kills John, that if Arnold kills John, he's technically failing his mission, and that forces him to go all Street Fighter bonus round on that car in the process in order to reboot.
Yep. So then a few moments later, Catherine and John come across this secret hideout facility, whatever. But
Yep,
then,
with it,
unfortunately, the TX arrives again, just to be even a bigger pain in the ass.
and
But then,
then
thankfully, out of nowhere, Arnold comes
a
in with
helicopter
a
just
bigger
squishes her,
chopper and crashes her to the ground.
and then
Oh, and
Arnold steps
do you
out,
know what else I
face
said
half
during that
melted,
moment? Get
and
to
then
the chopper. Get it, Arnold? Said
no,
that in Predator.
basically he steps out and he says, "I'm back."
Yep, with half of his
But
endoskeleton
along,
showing.
you may be back now, but not for another dozen years, mate.
And so this security heavily door is about to shut, but Arnold stops it just in time, just for Kate and John to crawl through. But unfortunately, the TX is still not going to go down without a fight. So
Yeah,
he grabs his leg,
at this
and then
point, everyone
Arnold.
is just yelling, "You gotta be kidding me!"
Yep, and
And
then
so
Arnold
eventually,
gets out
Arnold,
another one of his giant,
yeah,
one of his grenade thingies, whatever, from his
let me,
chest.
please allow me.
Sorry.
Eventually, only half of the TX is left, has liquid metal skin and completely gone, and so Arnold pins it and grabs his remaining corrupted hydrogen fuel cell and just rams it down the TX's throat, with one final badass line for both the TX and the popularity of the series. You are terminated.
Terminated. And then,
And so the TX and Arnold blow up in the process. But it turns out the facility they led Kate and John to wasn't a facility at all. It was a specially designed bunker, which makes them realize they were they there was no stopping. Which brings more sense to Arnold's line from earlier. You didn't stop Judgment Day. You only delayed it. Judgment Day is inevitable.
yep, so pretty much it also ends after the TX's death. John Connor's pissed off because they didn't find the thing that they wanted, that they were looking for to shut down on Skynet. So unfortunately, pretty much John Connor and Kate Brewster sit there in that hidden base, um, pretty much beginning their first few moments as, I guess you could say, really leaders of the resistance together.
All while nuclear Armageddon and wages around
Oh, and
them.
another good reason, just so I'm gonna just a bit more add to this video. Kate Brewster was also previously engaged to a guy named Scott, but the TX, well, let's just say the TX did good work on him.
Yeah. Anyway, as mentioned, as the world's nukes are launched, basically, it's now hell on Earth. And hey, the Cenobites aren't gonna go anywhere near that hell. Machines already know what pain is, and Judgment Day has more than officially begun. So,
yeah, and of course, the ending is then we get a bit more of a narration from John Connor, and as he's doing this, we see pretty much everywhere around the globe, nuclear missiles are striking left and right, and yep, and pretty much the war against the machines and humans, as pretty much Silver just said, which is Judgment Day, has officially begun. And then the last scene we even see is, well, I believe a T-800 head slowly, disactivating or going offline, and then the film ends with, well,
so that was Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, folks, if you're wondering why this one was so quick, because in all honesty, that's the only way me and Silver could really explain it. And besides, I'm not gonna lie, this film, at least to me, was pretty dang quick, and was even pretty dang quick for us to even explain the plot and do the story for. That's really pretty much what it was.
Honestly, with all due respect to James, and with all due respect to James Cameron's previous works, this film does not hold up to his standards.
Yeah, even still to this day, Will, it's not a film that's awful or bad, as I said before, but it's not a film that is very good either. It's just today just did all it just still to this day I think just does all right, I guess.
Yeah, basically this film isn't good, but it's not bad either.
Me and Silver wouldn't really recommend it, I guess, a lot, but still I'm pretty much just gonna say this on both of our behalves. Still, if you just want to watch it just in case for the completion of the franchise or even collect it into your collection, go right ahead. But warning, it is still not a very great film.
Yeah,
if you want, or even good one.
Yeah, if you want to complete some sort of trilogy, this film will help you to it. But you're gonna find the only thing you'll find behind this movie is nothing but a skid mark's body towed to the bumper and being dragged along the road.
Another reason why this review was also pretty quick, because all honesty, of course, as you all know, probably with most critics, we can't really tell you every single tiny bit of aspect of the film. So
that's true,
and that's the only way we can really do it well, quicker and fully.
Yep. So, for my final thoughts, as I will admit, I'm not gonna rate it at that high, but I'm not gonna rate it that low. I do think that Terminator 3 should have been given another chance and had James Cameron on board as well. Oh, but hey, the director did his best with what he got. So I'm gonna give Terminator 3 a 6 out of 10.
For me, of course, my ranking for it, because I pretty much just gave my final thoughts on it, it's not good, but it's not bad. So for this film, I'm just gonna give it actually a bit of a lower score though, not 6, but 5.
Understandable. Oh, if you do like this video, please like it, and if you want to support the channel even further, please subscribe and ring the bell for further notifications. Next time, it's gonna be a different kind of all-out war, as it's Megacop versus Megacorp in RoboCop 3. Until then, I'm the Silver Screen Slasher.
And I'm the Cinemastein, and we'll see you all.
And please remember, sometimes war just can't be stopped.